Today we will look at resizing in Figma Buzz. If you've ever needed the same design but for a different size, say a square post turning into a vertical story or a horizontal banner, you know how tedious it can be to manually adjust the layout for each ratio. In this video, we'll cover two parts: how to resize an asset in Figma Buzz so it's ready for any platform or any purpose that you need, and two, best practices for setting up these templates to be responsive and scale smoothly, making it easier for your whole team to create on-brand assets at any size. So let's start with how to resize an asset. If you're working in freeform view, which means you're working within a template that the guidelines are no longer attached to, or you're working in an asset that you've created from scratch, you can simply click on the asset, head to the top toolbar, and notice where you see the drop down here for the different sizes. You can browse through here and click on one that you would like to swap it to. So in this case, maybe I want to swap it from an ad to an event cover, and you'll notice that it will start to resize that for me. If you were browsing through this list and you don't notice the sizing you want, you can always come to the top and click the custom size to enter in your custom dimensions as well. If you're working from a template created from your organization, you'll most likely be in focus editing view. What that means is that I've dragged the template from my organization onto the canvas, and I am not able to move any of these design elements within my layout. I can only swap the content. In order to resize this, I need to remove those guidelines. So I can come up to the template, click on the unlock where it says remove guidelines. It's going to prompt me to make sure I want to do this. And from here, you'll notice my toolbar is now replaced, and I can go ahead and adjust it to any size. There are a few factors that will influence how well your designs are going to be resized when using this feature. For example, if I'm going from a square to a rectangle, there isn't much deviation in how the layout might play out. But in this scenario, say I have a really horizontal, maybe a skinnier height here for my design, and you can see that the layout is accommodating for that. Now, if I wanted to resize this, say for a skyscraper ad, you'll notice that it doesn't actually perform as well. And this may be a scenario where your brand team will want to create an alternate template for this specific ratio. The second factor being how the initial templates were actually set up. Text, image, and vectors all resize differently. And this leads me to our next section where we are going to talk about the best practices for setting up these templates to respond better when your users are utilizing the resizing feature within Figma Buzz. Let's talk about the different suggestions we have to make your assets resize better. The first being auto layout. In this specific template, I want to add auto layout, so my text here will actually resize and reflow as I change the width of the template. So maybe if I want to resize this to more of a horizontal layout, with auto layouts, I can drag and you'll see that it is properly setting up for this text to reflow. If I were to come back and take auto layout out, you'll notice that my template no longer does this and is not going to perform as well for the user. To add auto layout to your template, simply select whatever you want to add it to and come to the right-hand panel under layouts and select use auto layout. Within here, you are going to want to make some adjustments. So if you're not comfortable with auto layout, we have some great resources to help you get there, or you can use our suggest auto layout tool to give you a head start. Next, let's look at applying constraints. So similar to auto layout, constraints help define how layers are going to behave when the frame is resized. In this example here, I actually want my logo as the frame is resized to stay pinned to the bottom right. Currently, when I resize this, you can see that it is just staying in place and not staying pinned to the corner in that specified position. So if I want to do that, I can click on my logo here, head to the positioning panel, and you'll notice we have our constraints panel here. I can click these drop downs and I want to pin it to the right and to the bottom. And you'll notice that this is also specified with markers on the canvas. Now, as I resize, you will notice that the logo is staying put in that right bottom corner. When we're looking at vectors and images, it's also important to think about locking your aspect ratio. So locking a layer's aspect ratio ensures it retains the same width to height proportions when you resize the outer frame. This is especially helpful for logos, product images, vector objects, illustrations, anything that must maintain visual consistency as it scales. So for example, I already brought my design within Figma Buzz, and in this specific design, I do not have aspect ratio lock on this image. I want to change this layout to be for a vertical story for social. And you'll notice that when I do that, my image here crops itself. It does not retain the full aspect ratio I had before, and that is not the intended design that I am looking for. If we want to undo that, enter into design mode and find our image. Within the layout panel on the right-hand side, you will be able to click Lock Aspect Ratio. Now, if I go back into Buzz and try to resize this one more time, you'll notice that image retained its ratio and is resizing properly. From here, I can always make adjustments if I would like to, but it's really helpful to have that layer of support, knowing that specific things are going to scale properly. My last quick tip is to utilize the frame fill for any background media, such as photos or videos. This will just make your life much easier when resizing, because that media will automatically expand as the frame expands, rather than utilizing another layer that you might have to do some additional tweaking in the design to make function and resize properly every time. So using this specific design as an example, you can see that I have a background image. And if I would like to change the size here, you'll notice that it will expand and fill the full frame. That is because if I go into Figma Design, you'll notice that it is utilizing the actual frame's background fill, and the settings are set to fill. You can play around with these settings depending on the resizing behavior you would like, but this is just a really great way to ensure that it will expand as the different dimensions of your frame expand. So to recap, today we went over how to resize assets within Figma Buzz and best practices for making your designs in Figma Design so that when they are brought to Buzz, they can scale and resize properly. Remember that some layouts are going to resize to different ratios better than others. Sometimes a whole new layout should be considered when switching to a different ratio, and a designer's eye is probably best suited for any changes or complete updates to that specific asset. So we've learned some resizing tips, and I hope that you can leave today with some automation in how you are resizing your different assets for different platforms. Let us know what you think and what you would like to see next.